We spoke with Dr. Idan Phrantze, the ex-director of Pennsylvania's psychiatric hospital.
My duties, of course, at that time were more administrative, and I had very little contact with the patients. I was busy trying to start a new hospital, and we were underfunded at times. We found later that some of our staff had not been sufficiently screened and had problems there. But as far as the person you asked about, it was not an escape. All those people, we have an open facility here, and all those people are free to come and go. We are not a correctional facility. We had been asked to give him a little extra security because there was an incident with arson, and he was under evaluation with us for that. And as there was no family ever came forward to issue a complaint or questions, he basically signed himself out.
Tracking down Daniel Johnson from here proved to be very difficult. The hospital had no information on the patient's current whereabouts since he seems to have left without their knowledge or approval. However, Brittany Lewis, an outreach worker involved with helping the homeless, recalls an unusual man who made an impression on her.
About 5 years ago, I started helping my church. I was asked to volunteer downtown with the homeless to feed them at Christmas time. And I wasn't really excited to do it, but I thought it'd be the Christian thing to do. And so I went, and I was surprised at how fulfilled I was, just by the interactions and just kind of getting to know some of the homeless people, that they just hearing their stories kind of humanized them for me. So I was watching TV, and I came across this news program, one that I watch a lot, and a man that they were interviewing just kind of jumped out at me, and I thought, hey, that's a guy that I remember that actually kind of had me coming back. And to see him on television was great, because he's one of the main reasons I decided to stick with the program. He said something to me that kind of stuck with me, and he talked to me for a long time, and it just didn't feel like he should be there. But he was homeless. I mean, he was definitely homeless, but it was like one of those tragic stories, or like every time I try to delve into his background, like, why are you here? That's basically, where everybody tells you kind of why they're here. He didn't really want to talk about that. Like I said, this is a man that kind of stuck with me. And so I've always wanted the opportunity to get to talk to him again. And I never had that chance with him. But I never saw him again until this program. And I'm glad to see his life going in a better direction.
So how do all these characters line up, or are they all one and the same? We spoke with Adam Stevens, one of the musicians Dr. Steel has employed, about his involvement with Dr. Steel.
Late at night, I worked the graveyard shift, and weird guy would come in every once in a while, and we always had a lot of weirdos coming in. This one in particular really didn't, he wouldn't talk to anybody. He was very, like, reclusive, and whereas the other people who come in that late at night, all they would do is talk to you and drink the coffee. But he would come in, and he'd have like stacks of binders and like notebooks, like old nasty notebooks and what have you, and other books that look like they'd been sitting on library shelves for years. And he'd come in, make copies, scribble things down and everything. And I actually did get talking to him at one point. I was helping him fix the machine and everything. We just got talking, and then I happened to notice that most of his books were like manifestos, books on Zecharia Sitchin, books on UFOs, books on all that kind of paranormal, what most people think nutball stuff, and which I'm completely into. So I start trying to bounce back and forth with him, and he's very kind of closed off, almost like, I just caught him with his pants down or something. So, but, after a while, he'd make more visits and everything, and he started opening up a little bit more, and basically he told me his name was Phineas, and, it was for this grand scheme and everything else, and then he'd start letting me in on little pieces of that, and so immediately I'm like, all right, well, he's crazy. He's delusions of grandeur or whatever. So, but interesting at the same time, kept asking more questions, and I actually found out that he, oddly enough, wrote music. And he'd bring in, like, little cassettes. They were just really well done. So, in between, we'd jump topics. It would always start off with the latest book or something that he'd bring in, or he'd try to, preach some sort of thing to me about, his plans and everything else. And then I always try to steer toward music, a little bit more sane, and so I started really getting back into my music more heavily, and he kind of disappeared for a while. And then all of a sudden he showed up one night, and just kind of out of the blue, and he basically said, hey, I'm going to be doing this live thing. And he asked me if I'd play keyboards for him, and I was like, okay, yeah, how? I don't know, but, yeah, awesome, totally, I'm totally into it, and I thought, oh, okay, now I'm going to really get to know this guy, and everything, kind of enter his world. And not so. And so then we played the shows, and, I can't wait to do it again, so, but it disappears, I haven't seen him in quite a while, so, I will probably get a phone call at 3 a.m. or something like that, and, hey, here's what we're doing.
Having previously performed small independent shows over a period of years, Dr. Steel moved into larger productions. As his shows grew larger, so did his fan base and exposure. He found himself on late-night talk shows, news programs, magazines, radio shows, and of course the internet. Dr. Steel is still a mystery, and maybe that's the interesting thing about him. But if one day we see a giant robot destroying our city, we'll know who to blame.